Here is my layout for this challenge to rip a photo into 3 or more pieces, and I have several tutorials that I'm going to share with you. There's so many different ways that you can rip photos, and this one is going to be one of the harder ones, and it is manually making the rips. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn off some of these photo layers and turn on this original photo layer and activate my Polygonal Lasso tool, and I'm going to click and make a random box around one of the guys. Kind of envisioning where I want the boxes to go around the other guys. And then I'm going to hit Control J on the keyboard to put that selection on its own layer. And as you can see here, I kind of goofed a little bit. Grab the eraser tool and erase that little bit there, and you can adjust this even after you do the next person or place if you need to go ahead and maybe cut a little bit more off of this until you get them exactly the way you want them, and that would work. So I'm going to make a new layer under here. This is what we're going to draw the rip onto this new layer. I want to select my foreground color, and I have chosen this off-white, kind of in the yellowish range for my foreground color, and I've made my background color pure white. And the next thing is to get appropriate brush for this, and I have chosen these thick, heavy brushes and the rough round bristles. And the next thing you want to do is to make sure that you change the dynamics of the brush. And I've changed the hue jitter a little bit on mine. I'm not sure whether that's really going to matter after we apply all the filters. However, the scatter does matter quite a bit. I've moved mine about 4 or 5. This is going to what makes the edges of the rip jaggedy, as well as moving the spacing up. I've put mine about 10, but you can experiment and see what works best for your photo and your size photo and your size file. And I have found that a brush of about 30 pixels works well for what I'm working with here, but you're going to want to do that with your own layout. Find the correct size that's good for you. So I zoomed in a little bit, and I'm on my new layer here, and now I'm going to just do a little jaggedy edge, kind of zigzagging in and out, just ever so slightly around the edges of this photo. Don't want a straight line, because rips never tear in straight lines. At least I've never seen them that do. And so I don't know how well I'm doing this, just kind of quickly and randomly doing it. And when you get that done, there are several, well, let's look at this tear now. What I've decided to do is to add some texture to this tear, and you don't have to, but I played around and found a texture that I kind of liked, and so I'm going to go to the filter drop down menu, artistic and rough pastels, to bring up this filter menu. And this is where having the white background helps because of the filters that I've chosen. And I played around with this and I found a stroke length of about 7 and a stroke detail of about 3. And I'm going to give you my settings, but there's nothing really scientific about this. You can play around with other filters than I've got here, because I had a whole bunch of different combinations of things that I felt would work, and this is just the one I kind of liked the best. I liked it best when the light was from the left, because it made the little stripes kind of go up and down. And next I'm going to hit this new effect layer button, and I'm going to change this one to crackler. And the settings I found that have worked best for this are 55, 8, and 10. And I've added some other things to this. I'm going to click on the new effect layer again, and this time I chose this film grain, and I found that I liked the settings of 1, 7, and 6. You can see it over here kind of taking on some texture, and I actually found I liked it best when I duplicated that film grain. And those were the 4 I used. But you can play around, look in the preview window until you find something else you like, or you can use the settings that I found that I like. And click OK, and you can see now that it's got some texture onto that rip. Now I want to share with you there's more than one way to make this more realistic, and I'm going to duplicate this photo layer so I have 2 of them that I can play with. Now the first way is the easiest way. Let's turn that off. Go to the ripped layer, choose the magic wand tool, and just click out here to get a selection inside of that. I'm going to turn this photo layer back on and activate it, and you can see where it's going to be cutting away from the photo even further. And I'm going to choose the select drop down menu and inverse it. With the photo layer as the active layer, hit the delete key, Control D to deselect, and now you can see it's a little bit more realistic. If we zoom in, you can see how it's also jagged right here along the edges of the photo. It doesn't look like the photo's just setting on top of it. And now that would be satisfactory. We can add a high drop shadow. Where are my drop shadows? They always tend to hide from me. There they are. Don't know why, but you can add a drop shadow, and for my layout I actually have some pretty high drop shadows. And so there you go. There's one way that you can do it manually. I want to show you another way to make it a little bit artistic. And we're going to turn off this photo layer and bring back that copy we made to play with. And something else that you can do is to get the smudge tool and go ahead and get that same brush, make it a little bit smaller, and I like to use luminosity or lighten. I found those 2 worked well, and you can just drag out the edges, and you can see how it kind of this would take more time, but you can see how that makes it more realistic, as if it's actually ripped the photo. And so if you want to take time to do that, that is a great benefit that you could do to make a really great layout. You can see how this here looks cool. Another way that you can do the same thing is to take your eraser tool and go get that same brush that we've been playing around with. May want to lower the opacity down about halfway, and let's find another edge up here to play with, and just kind of erase. Let's make that a little bit smaller. Just kind of erase some of the edge so you don't see that line in there. And so it kind of just blends in. So you can, rather than the smudge tool, you can use the eraser tool. You can use a combination of the eraser tool and the smudge tool and just kind of work your way around till that looks more realistic. You can see how it's beginning to shape up here already. And so those are a few methods. Now if you want to make you know, a really wild tear where it's been looks like it's ripped through several layers, I can go ahead and create another new layer, grab that brush tool, and it's saved the dynamics that I've had before, and we'll go over to this edge, and what I can do is draw again, and the filter is saved until I use another filter. So once you set those filter settings, you can just keep running that same filter as long as you don't run another filter in between. And then I can apply a very small soft drop shadow to this one, or an inner bevel works good too. And it's gonna work there for a minute. And then I can, let's use this photo here. Then I can put that on top of this one and it looks more like a wild tear. And if I duplicate it again and move it down, and maybe duplicate it again, and if you just put a whole bunch of these around the edges, it makes it so the tear is a little bit more wild. So you can see how you can make a really wild tear if you really wanted to spend the time to do that also. And so I'm going to turn these off that we've been playing with and turn back on my final layout. Now I want to share with you here, I took the original photo layer and I turned it to black and white and just put it behind the photo so that it, you know, doesn't look good if things are just floating. That might be okay actually, but having the background on there is a great thing to do. You can leave it in color or change it to any kind of fun thing you can do. Wherever your imagination takes you. Maybe you might want to run a blur filter on it or something. And then I also added a second one there and changed it to sepia tone and turned it. And so that gave yet another effect for this layout. And so I hope you have learned a little bit how you can do this manually, and really look forward to seeing what you can do with these tutorials.